Hello BookTube, I'm Roz and this is my channel A Journey Through Books, and today it really is going to be a journey through books because I don't think I could talk about two books that are so different to one another than these two are, and especially books that I've really enjoyed reading. So let me get to it. Hopefully I'll be able to keep this short, sweet and to the point, because last week when I tried to talk about just one of them it took 24 minutes and I gave away far too many spoilers. So I'm going to try and not do that this time. It's going to be a bit tricky, but we'll get to that part when we get to that part. So the first book is Tess by the South African author Tracey Farren, and Tess was originally published under the title Whiplash. So if you're looking for it, you've got two titles that you can try and find it under. They called it Tess because they made a movie, and apparently the title Whiplash has already been taken. Apparently it's a famous movie. I know nothing about this. And so they settled for the eponymous title, Tess. Anyway, so the story of Tess is a story of a South African woman, 26, who is a prostitute working the streets in Muizenberg. And she is, especially in the beginning, very high on prescription medication. She's not doing street drugs, but she definitely has a problem with pharmaceuticals. But one realizes very quickly that she takes them to numb the pain and the fear, because there is no illusion in this that she's not doing this for the fun of it. When I was 2/3 of the way through this book and I was thinking about how I was going to talk about it on my channel, I was thinking that my opening lines would be, "This is not Pretty Woman," and it definitely is not. I don't think one could read a book as cold or as brutal. Well, I suppose you can, but this one does a really good job of matching them. It was chilling, actually. I felt dirty in places. There is sex in it, but it's not... It's not sexy, it's not kinky, it is grim, and she makes it very clear. Tracey Farren, apparently, she's a journalist, and she was inspired to write this after all the conversations and discussions that she's had with prostitutes in South Africa or in Cape Town, and that really comes across, especially in the first 2/3 of this book, where the cold brutality, I'm repeating myself again, it's why I didn't like the first video, because I think I said cold and brutal about 30 times, but it's really cold and brutal if you got the idea. Maybe I can move on now, I've stressed this. But it also looks at abuse against women and girls, and what brings women into doing this kind of work, because, as I said, you don't do this for fun. It's very clear that they don't do this for fun. They are constantly aware of the danger that they are in. In fact, right in the beginning, Tess speaks about one of the girls that worked with her. They call them each other girls. One of the women that worked similar area, well, same area that she did, who had been found murdered in the sand dunes, and even had her eyes gouged out. And then within a few pages, the one friend who was working with her was thrown out the moving car, So you are very aware of the violence against women, but you're also aware of the sexual violence against women that can lead to women taking this kind of a job. It is a hard book to read, especially in the beginning. And here we come to the problem with the spoiler, because the first 2/3 of this I would have given 6 stars out of 5. I thought it was brilliant. It was eye-openingly chilling. Did I mention chilling? But the last part, I think Tracey Farren, I hope I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not going to tell anybody what happened, but I think she wanted a happy ending for Tess. Whereas at the back of my mind, while I loved it, I was completely aware of the fact that it was highly unrealistic and never going to happen. But it's a very, very good book. It's written in 3 parts. It's to do with the 3 miracles, because Tess has a client, so he's a cop. This was right in the beginning. In fact, it's written on the back of the book too. And the cops would use them, because if they didn't shag them for free, then they would throw them in jail for loitering, because they could only nail them for prostitution if they actually caught them picking someone up. And so it was better for them to just do the cop for free, and the condom breaks. And of course, every reader worth their salt knows that Tess is now pregnant, which of course she is. And as you go through different things that happen, in fact, there was another complaint that I had, was possibly a bit of a religious angle in it, but there was one point in here where I had to absolutely laugh, and I did not plan on mentioning this, but actually I'm not going to mention it. It's the one humorous spot, so when you get to it, enjoy it on your own. But yes, I thought it was, especially the first two thirds, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And the last part made it pleasant, actually, which, you know, I'm not going to fault it for. I enjoyed it. I just felt it was wishful thinking and unrealistic, but, you know, I think Tess deserved it. Actually, that was one thing that I really appreciated with this, is that it showed the strength in women, even in the lowest of low situations. One of the women that are living in the same block of flats as Tess, she's a refugee from another African country, and she's talking about the people that she's lost, and whatnot, and how she takes Tess under her arm. At no point in time do you ever feel that Tess is safe, by the way, but how she tries to look after Tess, how her friends group together to try and help her. There's even a former nun who ditched the habit to become a belly dancer that is involved in this community of women who are not just out there for Tess, but they're there for each other. And the one thing that I also really appreciated in this is that Tess does not come across as just solely a victim. She's a strong woman. She's slowly but surely discovering what happened as she's coming off these medications, and her memories are slowly but surely coming back. So we as the reader are learning what Tess's past is, as Tess is learning it herself. There are some decent men in here, but generally the mood is very biased against men for obvious reasons. I liked the hope in it and the strength of the characters, and I really just, I fell for Tess because she showed her as a woman who had a heart, and I think considering how cold and cruel her life had been, especially in the last few years as her being a prostitute, I think that took quite a bit of juggling on Tracey Farren's part to show the humanness behind this woman who was just a prostitute. I think it's an important book to read. I think it's very quick and easy to judge these women, and I think this book has really made me think about previous biases with a bit more tact and, yeah, questions. Anyway, so that was the first book. The second book, as I said, we could not be moving further away but to the Sistine Chapel and the election for the new Pope. Could not be further apart, but I love this one too. So I just finished this one today. This is Conclave by Robert Harris. I don't know why I'm looking. I know it's Robert Harris, but anyway, I had read Fatherland by him and I was freaked out by it, but I was really impressed by it as well. So when I saw this, I just picked it up, which was a good thing, because if I'd read the back, I would have left it behind, because nothing sounds like a bigger snooze fest than sitting through the elections for the new Pope. I mean, right? Paint drying seems more thrilling. But Robert Harris had their way to make this book thrilling. In fact, I have read, I don't think I've read as many murder mysteries that are as thrilling as this book was. I even dreamt about it last night. It was awesome. So here you have, obviously the Pope dies, and it's now time to elect the new one, and this guy's name has just gone out my head, and I even wrote it in blooming review. Lomeli, there we go. Lomeli is our main character. We follow him, he's our focal point. And he was a brilliant, brilliant character to choose for this story, because he is the dean as well, so he needs to run the conclave, this election process. And this story shows how, well, the duality between godliness and being human. And a lot of these men are so ambitious, and although there are rules and obviously, you know, the idea that God is supposed to to help them choose the right man. And of course, all of them are trying to manipulate the vote. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. And then those that know that that would be a bad decision now know that somebody else needs to be voted in. So there's colluding everywhere. And there are things that you don't know that slowly but surely get revealed. And it was such a thrilling read, actually, for such a boring topic. I mean, I'm sure that there's a reason why there are no books out there, in the fiction world at least, on let's elect a new pope. Anyway, Robert Harris manages to keep this very modern as well. He touches on things of importance in the modern world. So you have the militant jihadists who are threatening Rome. You also have the different cardinals' opinions on homosexuality, and some who are so traditional in their views where they consider the fact that divorcees should not even be awarded communion. And it was very interesting reading this, because I learned some things, I think, and it was also one of the few books where religion was the main idea that didn't actually put me off religion. Look, I'm an atheist and I always will be, and generally when you're an atheist, that means that you start getting allergic to people who go to church a lot, because they suddenly get horribly annoying when they discover that you're an atheist, because now it's their sole purpose on life to fix that. But this book, actually, I'm going to use egg quotation marks because it's me and I'm an atheist, but it actually made me root for God to inspire them to make the right decision. I really, really enjoyed this, and the outcome of this was flipping awesome. I walked around the house for a good hour chuckling evilly. So I'm dying to tell my mother what happened, but she's got to read this. So she's going to read it and then we can talk about what happened at the end. But oh man, I just loved it. Absolutely blooming loved it. And I will be picking up more Robert Harris. I just might stay away from Nazi stuff because that was freaking scary. So those are the two books that I've read. Currently reading Kiss Before Dying by Ira Levin. I want to say Levine, but anyway, Levin. And I'm 80 somewhat pages in. I'm through the first part. And this one's also freaky. Also a bit different from the other two. I think corruption of the human is the only thing that's similar throughout all of these books. And I'm kind of enjoying this. I don't know where it's going yet. I have a feeling that I'm following a sociopath, but we'll see what happens. Interesting. And then the other book that I'm actually reading, is starting to become an air quotation marks as well, because this book and I are kind of bumping heads along the way, and that is Women Who Run with the Wolves. And this is supposed to be a psychological study on women, and I don't want to say the original woman. She calls her the wild woman, but wild woman starts sounding like something that fell out of Tess. It's let's put it, the inner woman. How does that sound? And she uses fables and fairy stories and tales from different cultures around the world. But she and I are bumping heads a lot, because she tells me she's very good at, well, first of all, that she's got these sources from, original people that come from these countries. If you had to get a South African story from me, it might not actually be accurate. I might think it is, but it does not mean it is. I mean, that's why we have the phrase broken telephone, because as these stories move through the ages, things change. But anyway, she tells us that these stories all come from original people, and she spent 3 paragraphs, if not more, listing countries. I love lists. And then she tells us that she's also very good at filling in places where things were missing. And I was like, really? And where's the proof of that? I mean, to quote Steve, I'll be the judge of that, Seymour. Because how am I supposed to know what she thinks she's filling in and how accurate it's supposed to be? So already I'm starting to wonder whether the foundations of her arguments actually are solid or not. And then the next disagreement that I have with her is that she doesn't state anything factually. It is all figurative, which is fine and dandy until you start telling me that I'm a summer breeze. I'm not a summer breeze, I'm solid. So she and I are bumping heads a bit, although the last story I read was pretty cool. It was a short story, because it's got short stories in here and then she analyzes them with the wild woman. I don't know. I've heard such good things about this, and I don't know, maybe I'm just in the wrong headspace for it, because I am being a little bit more analytical, possibly for non-fiction that's written figuratively. How do you write non-fiction figuratively? That just leaves it open to interpretation. You know, if you're going to state a fact, state a fact. But anyway, so she's apparently got tons of degrees, all in psychology and psychoanalysis and stuff. So she mentions Jung a lot, not Freud, which at least gives her some brownie points, but I'm still not really sold on it. And when I pick this one up at night, I know that I'm going to be asleep in 10 minutes, which is good when I need to go to sleep in 10 minutes because it's late. Anyway, so, oh, I need to tell you something else. I got a present. I didn't buy this for myself. My mom bought it. Oh, just look at the beauty of this. Tombland by C.J. Sanderson. It's so big it doesn't even fit in the screen. Tombland. Now this is what you call a book. I am really looking forward to knocking off on holiday because A, I'm going to blooming deserve it after this term, and B, I have Lamentation and Tombland now to read, and I am looking forward to that like nobody's business. So at least you'll get some stories, well, some wrap-ups from me in March. I'm going to try now, well not now, but tomorrow I'm going to try and film the A to the Q and answer the questions that I was asked. If I don't get it done by tomorrow, it's because setting tests has taken a little bit longer than I thought. I don't have as much to do as I used to, but meaning back in my previous job, but I have enough at the moment to keep me quite busy, and the deadline is racing forward, and next week is going to be a write-off because some idiot decided to create this thing called Valentine's Day. So now we need to have a Valentine's Day ball, which means bye-bye, wait, Thursday, Friday and Saturday, as on Saturday I'll be chaperoning teenagers at a Valentine's Day ball. Oh dear. We just need to start giving them little pills at the gate, I think. Just down the sex drive. I don't know. Why do we do this? Anyway, all for the sake of romance, hey, and kids enjoying themselves. Seriously, they should be studying. It's almost exam time. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope I'm going to put out another video this week, well, this weekend. If I don't, I'm really sorry. I will get to it, I promise. I'm working on the answers already. I've got long lists, especially when it comes to authors and who I'd like to have dinner with, and which books I would recommend in series, and oh, they're so hard. I have to think about those. Anyway, enough babble. Let me get off and go back to reading. Bye for now. Happy reading.